She was given to a stranger, tears in her eyes, chains on her wrists. The hall was cold, bright lights, stone floor, guards on every side. Sayla stood quietly in the middle, her arms locked in silver chains. Her father did not look at her. He couldn't. Because today he was giving her away, not out of love, but to pay off his debt. Sayla's heart beat fast. Her hands were shaking. Her voice was silent. She was only 19 cycles old, still young by her people's age. But today, she was being married off to a human, someone she had never met. Her people feared humans. They were strong, strange, cold. And now, one would be her husband, not by her choice, but by debt law. An older guard whispered, "She's lucky. That human is rich, a war hero." Sayla didn't feel lucky. She felt like a prisoner. The doors opened. Heavy footsteps echoed as the human stepped inside. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with short black hair and a long coat. His name was Commander Jaren Holt. He had fought in the border wars. He had led fleets. His name was known in many systems, but Sayla had never seen him before. Until now. He walked up slowly. Sayla expected harsh eyes, maybe a cruel smirk. But instead, he looked calm, serious. He stopped in front of her and spoke gently. "You don't have to kneel." Sayla blinked. Was it a trick? The priest raised the bonding tablet. "This match repays the debt owed by House Mirav. The human accepts the girl. Signed to complete the union." Jaren looked at Sayla, then turned to the priest. "No." The room went silent. Even Sayla's father looked up in shock. The priest cleared his throat. "Sir?" Jaren spoke louder now. "She hasn't agreed. You said this was a legal bond, but even your laws require the girl to give consent." Sayla stared at him. No one had ever said that in her defense before. The priest frowned. "She is here because of family duty. She must—" "No," Jaren said again. "I'll speak to her. Alone." The guards looked confused, but after a moment, they stepped back. Jaren reached out slowly and removed the chain from her wrists. The metal clicked softly as it fell. Sayla pulled her hands close to her chest, her eyes wide. Jaren lowered his voice. "I don't want a wife who cries at my name. I didn't come to take your freedom. I came because I was told you agreed." Sayla's lips parted. "I was told you demanded me." Jaren shook his head. "I said I would help your family. I never wanted to own anyone." She didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like this, not even her father. Jaren stepped back. "I'll give you time. You want to return home? I'll arrange it. You want to stay? You can. But I won't force anything." He looked at the priest. "Cancel the ceremony." Then he walked out. Sayla stood alone now, surrounded by people who looked more confused than angry. Her chains lay on the floor. Her father walked up, unsure. "You should go with him," he said softly. "It's better than here." Sayla didn't answer. She was thinking about Jaren's eyes. They had no hunger, only something strange. Respect. Later that night, Sayla sat on the edge of a small guest bed inside the human's ship. She had come not because she had to, but because she was curious. Why would a powerful man show her mercy? Jaren entered quietly and placed a bowl of food near her. "It's not fancy, but it's warm." Sayla took it slowly. He sat across the room, not too close. "If you want to talk, I'll listen," he said. "If you don't, that's okay too." She looked down at her hands, still marked where the chains had pressed too tight. Then at him, and for the first time in many days, her tears didn't fall. He offers her a choice, and she doesn't know how to accept it. The hum of the spaceship was soft. Outside the window, stars passed slowly like falling sparks. Inside the small room, Sayla sat in silence. She hadn't moved much since the wedding was called off. She still wore the same soft robe Jaren had given her. Clean, warm, no more chains. But the fear inside her, that was still there. Commander Jaren Holt entered the room carrying 2 mugs. "Tea," he said, setting one beside her. "No drugs, no tricks." Sayla didn't touch it, he didn't mind. He just sat on the bench across from her and sipped his own. "You haven't said a word in 2 days," he said calmly. Sayla looked up, slowly. Her voice came out small. "I don't know if I'm allowed to speak." Jaren blinked. "Allowed?" She nodded. "My uncle said, when you marry a human, you do not speak unless asked." Jaren's face darkened. "I'm not your uncle, and I didn't marry you. You're not bound to me." He leaned forward. "You're free here. Say what you want, or say nothing, your choice." That word again. Choice. It sounded strange in her ears. For so long she had been moved, ordered, promised, sold, like a thing. Not once had anyone said, "What do you want?" She whispered, "I don't know what to want." Jaren nodded slowly. "That's okay, we'll figure it out." Later he showed her the rest of the ship. He didn't take her hand. He didn't guide her by the arm like her clan used to do. He simply walked ahead and said, "Come if you want," and she followed, not because she had to, but because her heart said yes. He showed her the cargo bay, the engine room, and even his favorite place, a small greenhouse at the back of the ship. Rows of green vines grew inside sealed glass. "It's not much," he said, "but it reminds me of Earth, my home." Sayla touched the leaves gently. "They're alive." He smiled. "Just like you." That night she sat in her room and stared at her reflection. Her silver skin had more color now. Her eyes weren't as hollow. She touched her wrists where the chains had been, then whispered to herself, "I want to stay." The next morning she said it aloud. Jaren was in the control room looking at star maps. She walked in quietly and stood beside him. He looked at her and raised an eyebrow. She spoke carefully. "I want to stay." He didn't smile right away. Instead he asked, "Because you're afraid to leave?" She shook her head. "No. Because I feel safe here." He nodded slowly. "Then stay. As long as you want." She looked down at her hands. "And if I want more later?" He tilted his head. "Like what?" She blushed. "I don't know yet." Jaren smiled this time. "Then when you do, tell me." Later, in the garden room, Sayla picked a small flower. She had never held one before, and in that soft, silent moment, she realized something. For the first time in her life, she wasn't waiting for orders. She was learning how to be herself. Her clan demands her back, but Jaren stands between her and danger. The stars outside the ship glowed peacefully. But inside, the command deck of Jaren's ship, tension filled the air. A red light blinked on the comms panel. Incoming message. Encrypted. Jaren tapped the screen. A sharp voice came through. "This is House Mirav. You are holding one of our own. She must be returned immediately. If you refuse, we will come for her." Sayla stood just outside the door listening. Her heart dropped. Her hands trembled. She had hoped they would forget her. She had hoped they were glad to be rid of her. But they weren't done. Not yet. Jaren sat back in his chair and looked at the speaker calmly. "She's not your property. She stays because she wants to," the voice hissed. "She was given for debt. That debt was signed in blood." Jaren didn't flinch. "Your debt is not her cage." The call ended. Sayla stepped into the room. "They're coming, aren't they?" Jaren nodded. She looked down. "I should leave. If they fight you, someone could die. You could die." He stood. "No one's dying." She looked up, eyes filled with fear. "I don't want to cause a war." He took a breath. "Then we fight. A different way." They landed on a neutral station to prepare. Jaren had a contact there, Captain Elia, a lawkeeper who respected Jaren from the wars. "I'll file a protest," Elia said. "If her clan comes here, they'll have to go through me too." Sayla stood behind them quietly, watching the humans work, watching how they stood for each other. No chains, no fear, only loyalty. 2 days later, the clan arrived. 3 ships, full of warriors. And at the front of the landing bay stood Sayla's older brother, Varn. His eyes were cold, his voice sharp. "You bring shame to our blood," he said to her. "You bring fear to your sister," Jaren said back. Varn sneered. "This is not your business, human. She's under my protection now. She was given in marriage. That makes her ours." "No," Jaren said. "That makes her trapped, and I don't let good people stay trapped." The clan soldiers stepped forward. Jaren raised his hand slowly and tapped a button on his belt. 10 guards from the neutral station marched in behind him, blasters ready. Captain Elia appeared beside him. "This is protected ground. You try anything, here, and I'll jail you myself." Varn's face twisted. He looked at Sayla. "You think this man will protect you forever?" She stepped forward, her voice was calm, but strong. "No, he won't have to." Everyone stared. Sayla raised her chin. "Because I'm not afraid of you anymore." Varn stepped back like she'd struck him. She continued, "I'm not yours. I'm not a price. And I'm not going back." Then she turned and walked to Jaren's side. Varn didn't speak again. He left. And with him, the last piece of her old fear began to fade. That night, back on the ship, Jaren handed Sayla a mug of tea. She took it. Their hands touched for a moment longer than before. "I'm proud of you," he said. She smiled. "I'm learning." Then, after a pause, she added, "And I think I want to stay longer." Jaren raised an eyebrow. "How much longer?" Sayla blushed. "Maybe forever." She discovers a hidden power, one her people feared. The ship flew through quiet space. No bounty hunters, no clan ships, just stars and peace. But inside Sayla, something was changing. It started small, a flicker in her fingertips when she touched metal, a warm glow in her palms when she felt angry or scared. Once, she touched a cracked panel in the ship's engine room. It sparked back to life. She said nothing at first. Later that night, she stood in the garden room, holding one of the vines. She whispered a soft word from her childhood, and the plant grew, an inch taller right in front of her eyes. She dropped the vine and backed away, shaking. "What's happening to me?" She didn't tell Jaren. Not yet. She was afraid of what he might think. Would he fear her too? Would he send her away? Her people always feared powers like this, the glow-blooded, they called them. Long ago, her clan had exiled such children, maybe. That's what she was, but she couldn't hide it for long. One day, Jaren was repairing the coolant pipe when a fire broke out. Sayla rushed in. He shouted, "Stay back!" But she didn't listen. She reached out, and the flames vanished. Gone. In seconds. The metal cooled under her touch. Jaren stared at her. "Was that you?" he asked. Sayla stepped back. Her hands were glowing faintly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to." Jaren stepped closer. "You saved me." She blinked. "You're not afraid?" He shook his head. "Why would I be? That wasn't fear. That was control." Sayla looked down at her hands. "I don't know what this is. I never had it before. Or maybe it was always inside me." Jaren smiled gently. "Then maybe now's the time to understand it." The next day, he set up training exercises on an empty moon. He let her try small tasks, heating rocks, lifting dust, controlling light. She failed sometimes, but she never gave up, and he was always there, cheering quietly. Days turned to weeks. She grew stronger, not just with her power, but in her heart. One evening, while resting beside a campfire under the stars, she asked him, "Why do you trust me?" Jaren looked at her. "Because you're not just powerful. You're kind." She smiled. And this time, it was real. Back on the ship, she looked at herself in the mirror, For the first time, she saw not a girl given away, not a bride by force, not a debt. She saw a woman becoming something more, and she wasn't afraid of it anymore. The debt was a lie, and now someone wants her dead. The truth came from a datapad, an old file buried deep in Sayla's family records, unlocked only after Jaren cracked a corrupted folder sent by Captain Elia. The moment the screen lit up, Sayla's hands went cold. She stared at the words, line after line, official stamps, dates. Debt contract, void. False declaration by House Mirav Patriarch. Fabricated signature. No funds ever borrowed. She couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Jaren sat beside her and read it again. The debt never existed, he said quietly. They lied. Sayla stood slowly. They sold me for nothing? Jaren placed a hand gently on her shoulder. No. They sold you to hide something. Elia sent another file moments later. A secret report. Sayla, daughter of Irina Vel. Glow blood gene confirmed. Class 3 energy type. Recommend erasure or sale. Exposure risks family honor. Sayla's legs gave out. She dropped to her knees. They knew, she whispered. They knew what I was. That's why they gave me away. Jaren sat beside her, his voice low. You were never a debt. You were a threat to their power. That night, as Sayla lay in her room, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts spun like a storm. She remembered the chains, the silence, the cold stares. All of it was to hide who she truly was. But she wasn't hiding anymore. The next morning, the bounty message went public. Target Sayla Vel status, rogue glow blood reward, 1.2 million credits, condition dead only. Jaren read the message aloud in the cockpit, his jaw clenched. They're scared. That's why they want you gone. Sayla nodded slowly. Then we stop running. He looked at her. What are you saying? I want to face them. I want to show everyone what I really am. Jaren stood. If we do this, there's no going back. Sayla met his eyes. There never was. They left that same day. No secret path. No disguise. Just truth and courage. 3 bounty ships attacked near the edge of the Sarin Belt. Jaren flew like a storm, twisting, dodging, shielding. Sayla stood in the middle of the ship's core, palms glowing, eyes burning. She let the energy flow, not wild, not dangerous, controlled. She reached out with both hands and shut down all 3 enemy ships without firing a single weapon. The bounty hunters drifted, systems dead, stunned by the force that came from a girl they once thought weak. Afterward, Jaren turned to her in awe. That was... Sayla smiled softly. Me. Back on a public comm channel, she sent a message. Simple, calm, clear. I am Sayla Vel. I was not given. I was stolen. I am glow-blooded, and I am no longer afraid. The message was heard by thousands. Some cheered, some cursed, but all of them listened. The girl who once had chains on her wrists now stood in light, and no one could deny her truth again. She faces her past and chooses her own future. The ship descended slowly toward House Mirav's homeworld, the place where Sayla had once been treated like a burden. Now she returned, not in silence, but in power. Jaren stood beside her in the main chamber of the ship. You don't have to do this, he said softly. Sayla shook her head. Yes, I do. She looked out the window at the great golden towers of her clan's palace. Not for revenge, for truth. The landing pad was surrounded by guards, but no one raised a weapon. They were waiting, not because they respected her, but because they feared her now. Sayla walked down the ramp with Jaren beside her. Her silver robe moved gently in the wind, glowing softly at the edges, just like her energy. At the palace gate stood Varn, her older brother. He still wore noble armor, still looked at her with cold eyes. You shouldn't have come, he said. You shouldn't have lied, she answered. Inside the great hall the council gathered. Lords, elders, old voices that had once called her worthless. The high speaker stood and addressed her. You dare return after breaking the bond of debt? Sayla raised her hand and a glowing seal appeared in the air. The bond was false. Your records show no legal debt. The council fell into murmurs. She stepped forward. And this? She held up a second file. Proof that I was sold for my glow blood gene, not debt, but fear. Varn shouted, Enough! He drew a weapon, but before he could point it, Sayla raised her hand calmly, and his blade turned to dust. Gasps echoed through the hall. One of the elders stood slowly. What do you want from us? He asked. Sayla looked around the room. I want nothing. She looked at Jaren. I have everything I need. Then she turned back to the council. I am not here to take back a throne. I am not here to punish. I am here to tell you this. You no longer control my name. You no longer speak for my worth. I choose who I am. And with that, she turned and walked away. The hall remained silent behind her. But a few of the younger nobles, they followed her out, not to challenge her, to learn from her. Outside, Jaren looked at her with pride. You didn't destroy them. No, Sayla said, because I don't need to. She took his hand. I have something better. He smiled. What now? She looked up at the sky. My past is done. My path is mine. She squeezed his hand gently, and I choose to walk it. With you. She was forced into marriage, but she found real love. Peace had returned to the stars. No more bounty hunters, no more fear, no more chains, just light and freedom. Sayla stood in front of a mirror inside the quiet living quarters of Jaren's ship. But this time, she wasn't a girl waiting to be given away. She was a woman choosing her path. With full heart and full power, she wore no royal crown, no heavy robes, just a simple silver dress. She tied her long hair back with her own hands. No servants, no orders, just choice. In the next room, Commander Jaren Holt waited, nervous for the first time in years. He had fought wars, faced pirates, survived fires, but today he would do something scarier. He would marry the woman he loved. But not because the law forced it, not because of politics, because she chose him, and he had chosen her, from the moment he took off her chains. A small gathering stood in the station garden, friends they had made on their journey. Captain Elia. Several young nobles from Sayla's homeworld, even a few strangers who had heard their story and wanted to witness history. The officiant stood before them with a quiet smile. This is not a royal wedding, she said. This is not a political bond. She turned to Sayla and Jaren. This is something stronger. This is real. Sayla looked at Jaren, her voice soft and proud. You were the first one who saw me, not as a debt, but as a person. Jaren looked into her eyes. And you were the first one who showed me that strength isn't just in battle. It's in holding someone's heart and never letting it go. There were no fireworks, no crowds, just a quiet moment, a real promise, and two people, one human, one alien, who walked into each other's lives not by luck, but by choice. Later that night, they sat on the observation deck watching stars drift by. Sayla leaned against Jaren's shoulder. I was forced into marriage once, she whispered. He held her hand. But this time? He asked. She smiled. This time, I came willingly, because what began as a lie to hide her became the truth that saved her, and what began as fear became love.